backing up the military starting to not want to follow Donald Trump theory, he gave a commencement speech today at West Point. Now, normally when the speaker is speaking, you'll have cadets that will cheer or clap or whatever. And throughout his rant about stealth jets, trophy wives, him liberating the U.S. military from wokeness, and a variety of other things, the crowd stayed silent. Now, this is the next generation of leaders for the United States Army, and they're quiet. And they're either being told to be quiet by their leaders at the school, or they're choosing on their own to be quiet. And it could be both. But either way, the newest leaders for the U.S. Army are seeing through Donald Trump's bluster. Now, keep in mind, most of these are Gen Z, and Gen Z already doesn't like the Republicans, Donald Trump, and MAGA, even if they're in the military. So the new leaders coming out of West Point decided to stay overwhelmingly silent throughout Donald Trump's speech, and even to the end of it, where they would normally clap.
Donald Trump just gave a disastrous speech at the West Point U.S. Army graduation. Donald Trump left the audience stunned. First and foremost, Donald Trump seemed that he didn't even know how to get to the microphone, and he had to be escorted because he seemed like he didn't even know where he was. Watch what took place. Let's play it.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please remain standing for...
Then Donald Trump talks to the West Point Army graduates about a friend of his who had a trophy wife, and the audience is just absolutely stunned. Silence. What the hell is he talking about? Here, play this clip.
A trophy wife. It didn't work out too well, but that doesn't work out too well. I must tell you, a lot of trophy wives doesn't work out. But it made him happy for a little while, at least. But he found a new wife. He sold his little boat and he got a big yacht. He had one of the biggest yachts anywhere in the world. He moved for a time to Monte Carlo and he led the good life. And time went by and he got bored. And 15 years later, the company that he sold to called him and they said, the housing business is not for us. You have to understand, when Bill Levitt was hot, when he had momentum, he'd go to the job sites every night. He'd pick up every loose nail. He'd pick up every scrap of wood. If there was a bolt or a screw laying in the ground, he'd pick it up and he'd use it the next day in putting together a house.
What? What the hell are you talking about?
The job of the U.S. Armed Forces is not to host drag shows, to transform foreign cultures, but to spread democracy to everybody around the world at the point of a gun. The military's job is to dominate any foe and annihilate any threat to America anywhere, anytime, and any place. The job of the U.S. Armed Forces is not to host drag shows, to transform foreign cultures, but to spread democracy to everybody around the world at the point of a gun.
Now, this is the second time in the last 2 weeks. First, it was J.D. Vance, and I made a video showing the clip where he was alluding or saying something that was really weird in relation to, like, wars and guns. And now you're saying that the job of the military is to spread democracy at the point of a gun? When did that become the mission statement? We all know that that's what the United States is fucking doing, but when did that become like the public mission statement where we just said, you know what, hey, fuck it. We're doing all this shit, guns blazing. I thought that it was supposed to be that we're just supposed to be trying to protect democracy around the globe. So what is all of this fucking war talk? And y'all be trying to call me crazy when I'm saying that there's something else going on. Like, they are trying to incite a war. They want people to be in the military. That's why they're trying to ramp up the amount of babies that people are having. Like, you're not going to be able to convince me that they're not trying to set things up to keep their party in power, because they're trying to cause some real global instability. Like, that's the only explanation that I can derive at this point, because none of this shit, the tariffs, everything, none of it makes any sense.
As a combat veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, I've been asked how I feel about Trump giving the speech at West Point. And it's not heartbreaking because he dodged the draft by lying about a medical condition. It's not heartbreaking because he made graduation all about himself, a day that should have been about celebrating those cadets' accomplishment. It's heartbreaking because he has spent both of his administrations making friends and being nice to our enemies from the war on terror. People that are directly responsible for killing U.S. soldiers. Trump just last week was shaking hands with an al-Qaeda leader who was directly responsible for fighting against and killing U.S. soldiers. During his first administration, he negotiated directly with the Taliban, terrorists who were killing U.S. soldiers for 20 years, removing the Afghanistan government completely. There are millions of victims of the war on terror, millions of victims of American foreign policy across the world. It was the American foreign policy, and Obama won a Nobel Peace Prize for it, to be this idea of Christian realist where we create democracy around the world by propping up these small governments and helping them build democracy. That's no longer our foreign policy. So if you're asking how I feel as a combat veteran, watching a draft dodger give a speech to our future military officers and our future military leaders, and also people who are graduating from the same university that were killed by people that Trump is now making allies with, it's heartbreaking to me. It's heartbreaking to me that we forgot so much about the war on terror, that as we go into Memorial Day this weekend, we are forgetting the people who sacrificed for this country, for the war on terror. And Trump cares so little about that sacrifice that he is now making friends, courting our literal enemies on the war on terror. And that's no longer our foreign policy. Trump is making friends with our enemies and being bought off. And I guess that's okay, whatever. Soft power is better than hard power. But at the end of the day, it's heartbreaking to me to see a man who dodged a draft, who ended DEI programs that celebrated black cadets at West Point, give a speech in front of people who are going to fight tomorrow's wars for this country and are going to head into battlefields and into combat on behalf of leaders like him who don't even care that they will follow orders, that they will go fight a war on terror, a war on drug, whatever they say. So yeah, it's a little heartbreaking to me that we care so little about the sacrifice of my friends who died in the last 20 years. That we're now just becoming best friends with al-Qaeda leaders.
Earlier today, Donald Trump gave the commencement address at West Point Military Academy in New York, and I just want to compare this year's speech to last year's speech. During this year's speech, when Donald Trump was supposed to be celebrating the graduates and congratulating them on their achievement, he instead took a different route and decided to brag about his election victory in 2024. He also admitted that he doesn't know anything about the military and how stealth planes evade enemy radar. And then for some reason, he bragged about trophy wives, seriously, for a minute straight during this speech. But last year with President Biden, it was very different. He talked about the strength of the United States and the courage of these graduates, saying on their first day at West Point, 1,036 graduates took an oath to the Constitution of the United States to defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those who came before you have never failed us, and neither will you. Congratulations, class of 2024. So Trump shows up and brags about himself and his achievements, whereas President Biden actually congratulated these graduates, talked about their experience, their fight, their courage. The difference really couldn't be more clear. Narcissistic felon, patriotic public servant. And that's the truth.
Because of your commitment to protect what makes America America. We're unique in the world. We're the only country in the world founded on an idea. Other countries are founded based on geography, ethnicity, religion, or other attributes. But we're the only one founded on an idea, not figuratively, literally. The idea is we're all created equal, deserve to be treated equally throughout our lives. But ideas need defenders to make them real. That's what you, the class of 2024, are all about. Defenders of freedom, champions of liberty, guardians, and I mean this, guardians of American democracy. And just as this historic institution helped make America free over 2 centuries ago, and just as generations of West Point graduates have kept us free through every challenge and danger, you must keep us free at this time, like none before. I know you can, I know you will, for we are the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Congratulations, class of 2024.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please remain standing for the presentation of the class gift. The class president